Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today are my dear friends.
That's better than co-hosts, better than partners in crime.
So my friends, Mike Hill and Nick Wilson, and our special guest, Heather Hiple.
Yay. Mrs. Hiple.
Mrs. Hiple.
Yeah, we've called her that forever.
I know. Why?
Huh?
Why? It's been like that. You and Brady both.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you are a Mrs. Hiple.
I am, but
I know,
it's...
like you're a... Yeah, I mean, you're here and we're here, so it's like...
I'm a 3-scooper and you're a 1-scooper.
I don't know why. It's just always been that
I know.
way.
It has.
Yeah. Especially since you were the talk of the town when we moved here.
Was I?
Don't you remember that?
No. Was it good?
Yes.
Good.
So when we moved here, it was like, we want to do children's ministry. We want to try to figure out how to be able to do it and do it well. And at that time it was, so who right now is the best children's ministry person in Huntington?
Well, you didn't ask very many
Mrs.
people.
Hiple.
Oh,
Mrs. Hiple. Everybody knew that Mrs. Hiple, she was at East State Street.
Yep. Church of God.
Yeah,
It's a
Church
Boys
of
and Girls
God.
Club now.
And we robbed her.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
please come and help us. We're desperate.
Well, it was a good move. It was a good move.
Well, almost 20 years later, and you're still here, so
Yeah.
it must have been.
That's a long time.
Must have been good.
A lot of life has happened in 20 years.
Which is surprising that you've stayed.
Yeah. I know. Considering the pastor, like, I'm shocked every Sunday when I come in. I'm like, why are we still here?
And I think, amazing because most people didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Most people were like, they came in the beginning and helped out in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, very few people that are on the church plant team, although some people are back.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people that were in the beginning on the church plant team, and then they were like, you guys are terrible. Now they're back.
Yeah. It's hard.
We're not as terrible anymore.
No. Starting to figure things out. It only took 20 years.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Okay, so we asked some questions to get to know you a little bit.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
So sometimes we ask what TV shows you're watching. And so I
Okay.
started thinking when Eric and I first came to the church, Survivor was the biggest thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember you guys would always watch Survivor and talk about Survivor. And so, with that being a reality show, do you watch still reality shows? Do you have a
You're not still
favorite?
Survivor?
A little
still
bit
on?
Survivor. It's still on.
Okay.
I didn't really watch the last season. I've been in grad school for the last year, and so I just really haven't watched a lot of TV. So I have the last season on DVR and the current season on DVR. I'll watch it someday.
Okay.
Amazing Race. We really like Amazing Race. Someday I'm going to run the Amazing Race.
Are you really?
I don't know. Probably not, but I'd like to.
Could you make it on Survivor?
No.
No?
I'm not tough enough. I like to think I'm tough enough, but I just think I like food and I like to eat, and I think that would be, I don't know, that would be
That
too
would be
rough
the
for
hardest
me.
part for you?
The food, yeah.
Not eating?
Yeah. But Amazing Race would be fun, I think. But Mark and I get in these discussions about what we will and won't do in the Amazing Race. And it's just such a weird discussion because we're never going to run the Amazing Race together. And he's like, well, if we're going to run it, then you're going to have to do A, B, C, D. You're going to have to.
Which one are you? So are you the navigator and he's the driver? Is it?
No,
like,
he's
what
the
are
navigator.
He's the navigator.
He's the navigator. I'd be the driver
Okay.
for sure. He can navigate like a boss.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that's what he does for his job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he'd be navigator. But we saw one episode once where these people went to take a fast forward, and they had to participate in some ritual. Well, they had to shave their heads, and the girl wouldn't shave her head. Or she did, it doesn't matter. But we have had a discussion. I'm like, I won't shave my head. I will not. And he's like, it's for $1 million.
Yeah.
I'd shave my beard. And I'm like, but your beard's not cute. Like, I'm not shaving.
He would shave his beard?
He says he would.
Mark.
I know. I don't know if I believe
Would you
that or
shave your
not.
head?
For $1 million, probably.
Would
I mean,
you really?
It'll grow back.
I got my hair chopped off the last time I got it cut, and I just think, yeah, that's never happening again. So
You
I
can buy
know
wigs.
I
You
won't.
can buy wigs.
I suppose
I wish
Yeah,
that,
I
I
would.
wish that I would do it for $100.
you would. Well, you're a guy.
It'll take more than $100.
I wouldn't shave my beard.
Maybe $100,000.
What would it take for you to shave your beard? How much?
I don't know.
Nothing. No, don't
That's
ever
what
do
I'm
that
thinking.
again. Last time you did and you walked down those front stairs, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's baby face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
Mark did it once, and I'm just. It's weird. It was
'Cause
weird.
but he hasn't. Yeah, neither one of us have always had a beard.
No,
Yeah,
but it's just a thing now.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Well,
so
real
no.
men have facial hair.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be a man, grow some facial hair.
That's
Except
what-
for a mustache, then you look like a pedophile.
Yeah, the mustaches are really weird.
Just saying. Like, that's the new thing is like,
Yeah, nobody looks good with just a mustache.
No.
I don't know why that's the trend, but so no, Amazing Race, but I don't watch a lot of TV. I like Little House on the Prairie. Isn't that funny? I really like Pa and Ma, and it just takes you back to a good time in life.
So
you know?
where can you find that on TV? Yeah.
Cozy. It's on Cozy. Sometimes it's on Hallmark.
that is funny. Little
Yeah.
House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, we were flipping through channels the other day, and Sarah was the same thing. I want to watch Little House on the
Yeah.
Prairie. We turned to the one where Laura Ingalls gets blind.
Oh,
I'm like,
well, it's Mary, first of all.
oh, is it?
So, yeah.
Mary's the one who gets
Yeah.
blind. I'm like, what happened? Why are we watching this poor little girl just went blind?
I
what a
I like
terrible
that.
thing.
It is, but we don't watch. There's not a lot of things on TV now that are appropriate.
No.
So a lot of King of the Hill. Have you guys ever watched King of the Hill?
Nope.
Yeah.
So it's just a dumb cartoon. We watch that, and Everybody Loves
You
Raymond.
watch a cartoon?
It's like a
It's adult version
it's an adult-
cartoon. It's
Like
not
The
like
Simpsons?
a South Park adult, but like
Yeah,
a
but
yeah.
it's
Yeah, like a Simpsons type of
Yeah,
thing.
but-
It's pretty funny.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it.
okay. So what's your favorite hobby? What do you like to do for fun?
I don't know. And I like to do anything outdoors. If I can be outside, I just love it. So if it's outside, I like to do it. And recently, just started doing sourdough, and I'm really enjoying that. So
What's
I'm-
that mean, doing sourdough?
Well, you start sourdough, so you have to ferment a starter,
Okay.
and you grow it until it's fermented enough to bake with. So
Okay.
I don't have a reputation of being a good cook. Like,
You don't?
oh no, you ask any of the boys in my family and they will talk about all the years that I burnt my food and it just was not good in the kitchen. Well, I'm starting to figure out sourdough and I never thought I'd be able to bake bread, and I've done rolls, blueberry muffins, bagels. I can
Wow.
cook bagels,
Wow.
English muffins, cookies,
All out of sourdough.
all from scratch, all out of sourdough.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my new thing, but now that it's starting to get warm, just anything outside. Just love
Mushroom
doing that.
hunting pretty soon.
Mushroom hunting soon.
Yep.
Yeah. And then fishing,
turkey
crappie
hunting.
season. Yeah, I don't turkey hunt.
Oh, you don't?
No, I have no desire. They're gross. They're so ugly. Have you seen a turkey in the wild? They're
Yes,
just,
they're awesome.
that's what Mark says, but I just have no desire.
Okay.
So, yeah, so fishing
Yeah.
will come around, and then deer season, and then starts all over again.
So like when you deer hunt, do you like process it yourself?
We do not.
okay. I didn't
We
know if
have
you-
in the past. So, back in the day when you have 18 kids at home and you have no money, you have to cut corners. So we used to process it and get a whole little party going. And we'd put all the kids at the table with knives and cut up the deer and then take it to the butcher and they'd process it for us. But Braden has a grower now that processes deer. So we just take the deer there and let them take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
That wouldn't
Yeah.
be you, Jennifer?
No, it would not be me.
You
To
wouldn't be
eat it
cutting
or
the
to
deer up?
process it?
Neither.
Really?
No.
You would eat it. You wouldn't
No.
even know it.
I have before. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You need to try Mark's steaks. They are. Have you had Mark's steaks?
I
they-
mean,
You've
All of you
surely.
guys'
They're
food
just
is good.
delish.
Yeah.
He's a good cook. He's the good cook. But yeah, we don't buy beef. We get veal every once in a while, but deer, elk, moose.
there you go, Jennifer. If you're going to the Hiples for
You wanna
supper,
come over for dinner
you,
sometime?
you are getting wild game.
I will just
Jennifer's
respectfully
always gonna be like,
decline.
"We're busy." Sorry,
I'll
we're
bet
busy.
you would know no difference.
I bet you I would.
That's
I used to. When we first got married, it was disgusting, and I just was irritated that that's what I had to eat. And now I don't like beef. Beef is it's just weird.
Yeah, it's a different.
It is.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I don't know why people pay for steak, beef steak.
Oh
They're gross.
no, they're not. We just had that Monday night. I
Eric's
think.
probably a good
Oh, for sure.
meat cooker.
So good.
Good meat cooker.
Oh,
Is that what it would be? A meat cooker? Meat chef?
zucchini and onions on the grill with soy sauce, like tapioca, and
Ooh.
yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yeah, I mean, it
That sounds
tastes
good.
good. It's just the thought of buying it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
$21 or 20 bucks.
I know. I am out of steaks now, so I'm like, I gotta get with Vic and see
Yeah.
you got a
That's
cow
the
going
part
in.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
How
so
much
I
it
don't buy
costs.
steaks at the store, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
get a
we don't
cow.
either.
Yeah, yeah. So your favorite childhood memory?
Oh. Gosh. I don't know. I think my favorite childhood memory was, well, my mom always worked hard to make Christmas very special for us. And when my parents got divorced, we just didn't have a lot of money. And there was one Christmas she didn't have money to buy us gifts. And so we traded gifts. And so, do you remember S&H green stamps? You don't even remember those?
What's it called?
Do you S&H green stamps?
No.
Was it a book that people put them in or
and you
something?
get these stamps from the grocery store, and then you save your stamps, and then you can turn your stamps in to buy things. So that's probably aging me, but she bought me a stuffed animal with her green stamps, and then we just traded things. Like my brother gave me his highlights. She gave my brother some magazines, and I just think that was one of the best Christmases we ever had. We had absolutely nothing, but it was just I still have that stupid stuffed animal to this day. Yeah, but she still made it special for us, and I don't know that we even knew how poor we were. Yeah. So, just lots of memories, vacations with family.
Disney.
I was too poor to go to Disney when I was a little girl.
I thought you were a huge Disney
Well,
person.
I love to go to Disney now.
Okay.
I only went a couple times when I was a little girl. Maybe once
Okay.
with my mom, once with my dad.
Okay.
Ooh, I thought of another memory too. So I have brothers. Grew up with 5 brothers, and one of my brothers and I was out with 2 of them, but I don't know how we did this, but we tied the youngest brother to the swing set, and his legs were out and his arms were out,
wow.
and there was a boat anchor on the end of the rope. And it was my stepbrother. Every time he yelled for his mom, we'd throw the boat anchor, and his whole body would tighten up. I don't know how we got
Kids are like stretching him.
It was terrific. And so we're like, if you yell for your mom, we're going to throw the boat anchor. I know, isn't that terrible?
Gosh, that's awful.
I'm not like that now. I swear.
This is the way I raised my kids.
And I'm
Stop
involved in
complaining,
children's
we're gonna-
ministry
I
now.
know. Well, I'm going to say maybe you're kind of like that because I know you're a practical joker with my husband when you would go on mission
yeah.
trips. So you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
a little orneriness in you still.
I do.
So, yeah.
I do, definitely. I still owe him, though.
You do.
Because the last one, what was that, a possum? He laid a dead possum at my door, my car door, after church one day. I don't even know. It was hot and smelly, and yeah, that was the last one. So,
Especially since you used to park separate from everybody.
Yeah.
So
I
you could
still
make sure
kind of
your
do.
little black
Forerunner.
Forerunner didn't get touched by anybody.
But see, that's back in the day when we only had like 20 people here. So
Yeah.
I could park out. And now we've got more than that. And so there's no parking out in the boonies now. Like
everything is in the
everything
boonies.
parks in the boonies. Yeah, everybody parks in the boonies now. So
Well, Mark, I mean, he did it to me going into men's group the other night. Mark used to come in here when there was nobody in the church, and he would hide. So he would hide upstairs in the dark.
Yeah.
And I'd come walking out of my office. He would grab me.
No wonder you're so
does.
jumpy and I scare you
Judas,
sometimes.
I mean,
when you
I'm the only person. I used to be the only person in here ever. It was dark upstairs. Mark would come in because he was the AT&T guy, but I don't even think he was working on the phone.
Yeah.
I think he just came in to hide underneath the chairs until I come walking out.
Do you remember the time he hid in the electrical closet on this side? And he about passed out.
I did. The top of my head went numb. The whole top of my head went numb. He comes out. He's like, and I'm like, the top of my head was like, I'm like, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, he does. He still does that to me. We've got these stupid little. Have you seen those little? They're like frisbee things, but you can kind of twist them and fold them up, and they're compact. But he hides those. Well, we both do now, but he'll hide those in a drawer. So I'll open up the drawer and it'll pop in my face, or he'll even do it in the bedroom door, and he'll be asleep at night. I'll open the door and it'll pop, and he'll just start giggling just because it wakes him up. But. Yeah, he still thinks
so
he's funny.
Yeah.
But he told me he got you at men's group.
Oh, he did. And again, the thing is that I swear every time I get scared. So I'm like, are you just trying to get everybody to know that I cuss? Because as soon as you say it, it happened on the trip. Like we were out hiking. We just got back from Hocking Hills hiking, and the kids, they hide all over the place to scare me, and then they videotape it, and they think it's the
that's
funniest thing
awesome.
ever. And then
think
watch
that's
it,
funny.
and I'm like, Mark, seriously, you got all these guys from church out here, and you're scaring the crap out of me, and it's language comes out of my mouth that probably shouldn't when you
Oh, he
scare
gets a
me.
kick out of that. He thinks he's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it was, he got me again, like
Yeah.
always. Doesn't take much. Yeah,
That's the
No, it
thing.
really
That's why it's
doesn't.
funny.
No,
It
I'm
doesn't take
jumping.
much. Emma's the same way, your daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
She was at the copier one day, and she had her back to me. We both work at Riverview. she had her back to me, and I just came in. I was like, Emma, and she's like full blown. I can't even do it in the microphone. Full blown blood curdling scream. She's like, and turned around, and if I knew she was going to react that way, I would have.
Yeah, just keep doing it.
Oh my gosh, I would have done way worse than that. So now I know. Now I know.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So you've always lived in Huntington, right?
Pretty much. I moved here when I was in high school, maybe a freshman in high school. I grew up in Fort Wayne.
Okay.
And then my mom got remarried, and I moved to Huntington, and I've been here ever since.
Mm-hmm. So was the East State Church of God like the first church you ever went to? Is that where like Nelson's family went to, or?
No, I went to church in Fort Wayne for the longest time. And then, you go away to college and lost touch with youth group and church. And then Mark and I started going to, I think, Bethel United Methodist across the river.
That little church?
Yeah, very little church. And then we just went on our own to East State Street. And I don't even know what made us want to go there. Maybe I had some people that I knew there. And then went from East State Street to Life. So.
Yeah, but you were a part of, again, I mean, I don't know how far, I think, because I'm messing your story up with somebody else's.
Maybe.
But, I mean, you went to the Calvary Temple Church.
Oh, yeah.
Right, when the Panos were there.
Oh, yeah, that's my story.
The Panos.
Yeah.
Don't you remember any of these stories?
Yeah, it
So,
was...
Heather can share. Again, from my personal opinion, I think it was kind of a weird...
It was.
Cultish?
I would say, yeah.
Maybe that's not the right word. That might be a little extreme. But Calvary Temple used to be enormous. I mean,
yeah, it was huge. It was the biggest church in Fort Wayne.
Is that now like the Assembly of God? They're on Washington Street?
That's where their building is.
But I mean, they did all of the like living cross, tree, Christmas
musicals.
tree.
We were at church.
And that's where Scott Street went, didn't he? Did Scott Street go to that
Maybe.
church?
I haven't been there for quite some time.
His mom and dad were like really big into stuff like that. Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't know it when I was growing up. You know how... I hate to say weird. If anybody is watching, I'm not trying to be offensive, but how weird some of the things were. But, we were at church all the time, which isn't weird. But we were at church, 2 services on Sunday morning, Sunday night, choir practice during the week, a midweek service, prayer service, church camps, the musicals and stuff. But,
I can remember stories of like the Panos, like where you couldn't leave the service. They kept passing the plate until they got enough money for their thing. And
they were very corrupt with the money.
Yeah.
And I don't think my mom will mind me telling this story, but, we were living in poverty, and they were continuing to ask for money.
Yeah.
And I never put 2 and 2 together how high on the hog. Like, I always knew that they had these great houses and horses and all of these things. But I never put 2 and 2 together when I was a little girl. And then, you start growing up and you realize, that's a little shady.
And I think that even at the time, wasn't there one of the Pano boys was doing youth, and there was kind of a weird
there was
interaction between...
I don't remember. I knew there was
maybe that's another story.
Well, there were some people in the leadership that were spending time at bars, and people used to make fun of us for going to a church with pastors that were getting drunk, and we're like, no, they're not. Well, it ended up being true. And there were some people in the leadership that did get in trouble for child molesting.
Yeah.
But it was all okay, I guess. And again, I'm coming from this. I was a 14-year-old kid when I was there. But that kind of warps your view of church and a big church.
Right.
And, you grow up thinking you know what it is to be a Christian. And then when I started taking ownership of my own faith, realizing what it really means to be a Christian, that's a whole new journey all on its own.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you. I mean, I don't know like how that happened with you, because a lot of times when you come from something like that to transition into where you are today, I mean, that's a big thing to overcome.
Sure is.
When you grow up and that's what you see, there are a lot of people that don't recover from that.
Yeah.
And so like, how did you get to the place where it was like, okay, I can deal with that being weird.
Yeah.
That wasn't the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I can take ownership. Because did you and Mark date all through high school?
No. We met maybe my freshman year, sophomore year in college.
Okay.
So,
because it is a little weird, the church girl and the Hiple.
Definitely weird.
Right? I mean,
That
if
is
you think about it, the
not
Hiples were...
Yeah.
They
were like, well, I thought they were these
like
rough
the
gun-toting. Yeah.
It was the littles and the Hiples.
They grew up with the littles.
That's what I'm saying. And then you got the church girl, the Hiple.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how did you guys end up?
I don't know. I think those were two completely different journeys.
Okay.
You know, because when Mark and I met, I mean, I grew up in the church. I've been a Christian my whole life. I've known Jesus my whole life, but I don't think I really took ownership of my faith until I was a young mother. And so, you know, Mark and I had already been married and, you know, had already started a family. And then I went to my first real Bible study with Lee Dowdy, and we did this Bible study on Esther. And it just changed everything for me because I had struggled with lots of feelings of insecurity, lots of anxiety, just not knowing, I don't know, just not feeling valuable or like I was worth anything, and not like depressed or anything, but just like, I don't really know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so through that book of Esther and just understanding, you know, that I have a calling on my life and that, you know, who knows, but that you have come into the world for such a time as this.
Right.
And that I was really impacted by, you know, when Mordecai talked to Esther and said, you know, how do you know that this isn't what God has called you to do? And you might choose not to save the entire Jewish population, but if you don't, somebody else will. You know, but just telling her, like, you have a purpose in your life, and it's something great. And it just, I don't know, it just awakened something in me to realize how loved I am by God and how I really do have a calling on my life, and the gifts that he's given me I can use for him and to further his kingdom. And that was just the start of it. And it's just been just a journey of, I don't know, understanding those things and growing in my faith over the last, 20 years or so. Still growing in my faith,
Right.
But realizing through Bible study what the Bible really says, or, who God really calls us to be, or, when you grow up in a church like that, maybe it was just me, but I felt like God was this being this guy that was like, everything I did, you're stupid, you're wrong, you're going to go to hell. And then you'd be like, please, Jesus, come into my heart. And then you did something wrong again and you're going to hell again. And it was just this terrible cycle. And realizing that, I'm sealed and I've got Jesus in my heart and he loves me and he forgives me.
Right.
And I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to go to heaven.
Right.
But, he's redeemed me and has given me a calling. So I just think that was the catalyst for me taking ownership of my faith and just really seeking the Bible and what it really says about
And
who
so
I am.
at that time, because again, I'm just trying to remember all of like history stuff whenever we first met you guys.
Yeah.
And then at that point, like through that, is that how you got into children's ministry?
No, I was in children's ministry. I've been in children's ministry forever.
Okay.
Forever.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I've always been a believer. I've
Right.
always believed. I just maybe just didn't know the truth.
Yeah,
You
but
know
I
what
think
mean?
at the time, like, at least this is what Gary Newton told
Yeah.
us, so
Yeah.
Gary knew you from somewhere,
Yeah.
and Gary's like, well, she really has a heart for the downtown, and the
Definitely.
kids from the downtown, the kids that can walk here. And that was part of what we wanted is that like, we wanted to stay here,
Yeah.
so that we could get kids that walk. And it's funny because kids still walk here,
Right.
they
do.
From even in middle school.
They
kids
do.
from the middle school still walk and are a part of that. But then when you first came on and you were a part of it, I think this is right. I don't know.
Okay.
But wasn't it at the time, too, that Mark was kind of like somewhere in the middle of like where he fit in it all? Because I could just
Yeah.
remember like we were getting ready for everything. And not that he wasn't a believer. I just don't
Right.
know how excited he was about church.
Yeah.
Like, I think he loved Jesus. I just don't know how
Yeah.
excited. Because I can remember praying for Mark in the beginning when we first started, because Mark was my first men's group here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mark and Chad, Eric Good, Rocky Baldridge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
So
Rocky.
those are all like in the beginning. That was the first men's group we ever did.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now Mark is in this one.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of a full circle.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. Well, I guess it's not beautiful because we're talking about men. So I don't know what it is with men. But yeah, at the beginning, I was all in. I grew up in like I was all in at church. We were all in. His family was just like, if you want to go, go. If not, no big deal. And he knew Jesus. He's loved Jesus, but not really
Yeah.
not really involved in church a lot. And then his work schedule changed, and they started working on Sundays. And so then I don't even know how many years I brought the boys by myself and came to church by myself. And then he changed jobs. And yeah, that's just been it's been a great 2 years.
Yeah.
He's been able to come back to church and went on a missions trip. We went on a missions trip together, which was phenomenal. And he's kind of, even though he jumps out and scares people, he really is kind of introverted. He doesn't really like to mingle a lot, you know what I mean? But made some friends on the mission trip, and he and Troy think they're bros now, so I don't even know. I don't even know, but yeah. And so men's group, and it's just, I don't know, it's just neat how things, like I said, we're always growing in our faith and always changing, and things have just changed a lot in the 20 years.
Well, and I mean, I've always said this about you guys. I mean, so you guys were like family to us.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first came here, you know, we didn't go back
Right.
for any of our Thanksgivings. And so we would go to your house for Thanksgiving. We'd go to your house for Easter. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
We raised
my
our kids
kids
together.
called Grandma Susan.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of how we did everything. In fact, the one night, and I mean, if this tells you, I think I've told this story before, but the one night when Josh said, hey, I'm coming to your house, we're getting the kids back, and we're calling, like, where do we take them, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, we called you guys and sent half the kids there, and, you know, Brady and I stayed back, and you guys kept the kids for the night.
We
And,
did.
I mean, again, it was like people who have, like, can come to church, but also can live out.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I always thought was so cool about you guys, is
Yeah.
the heart of gold. And, like, it's one thing to know the truth. It's another thing to live it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's another thing to say, yeah, like, I'm willing to, because, again, nobody knew at that time. I mean, Josh
Yeah.
was nuts.
It
I
was a
called
scary
the
night.
prosecuting attorney and said, listen, I might shoot him. If you can imagine that being on
Yeah.
the front page of the paper.
Well, we turned out all the lights. We took all the kids we took all the kids' phones.
Yeah.
Turned them off, and I don't know if you remember this, but you know, we all sat around. One of the girls was on the couch in a fetal position. It was a scary night, and so, you know, and we barely knew the kids at that
Yeah.
point. So just trying to build some relationship with them, and I live out in the country, and it's really dark out there. Where somebody starts beating on the door. And Mark looks up and he goes, everybody go to the basement. Don't come up no matter what you hear.
Yeah.
So he opens the door. There's Brady. And he goes, Brady, what are you doing? And he goes, my dad said I need to come in here and stay here. They're going to be here in here in a minute. So, yeah, we were all scared and whatever. But I don't know if you guys remember. You spent the night in the basement that night. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff I remember the moments,
Yeah.
you know, because it's, again, when you're in crisis and you can call upon people that,
Yeah.
you know, are close to you. So, I mean, I think that's just something we remember,
Yeah.
you know, in that. But so in your journey, because I am interested in this, is so through all the ups and downs
Yeah.
of Life Church, because you've been here in the beginning stages of we're trying to get started, and yeah, I mean, it's a survival. We don't really know what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to get it all figured out. Like, what's kept you here? Like, I am interested in that. Like, what has kept you here from the beginning? Because people who have been here a long time have experienced a lot, but people who have been here in the times where we were meeting at our Brampton Road house
Yeah.
and sitting in a living room praying about what it would look like, and then trying to figure out how to reach people, and then get into a building that we don't know what to do with, and it's way bigger than what we know what to do with. And yeah, so like, what has kept you here?
I think just being on mission, and you've said it from the beginning, and I agree with you 100%. You know, we're just people. And I think a lot of times people will go to a church and expect everything to be perfect. And when it's not perfect, they leave and go find something that they think is perfect, which is, if that's great for them, that's great for them. But I think you just said it within the last few weeks. If you want something and it's not working for you here, maybe you can make it work here. Like, if you want a ministry that doesn't happen here, maybe you can be the one to start it here. And so I just, I don't know, I've loved the people. and I tease you a lot, but I do like your preaching. I
Wait a
always tell
second, teasing, this is not how it works. Back in the beginning, Heather used to say very specifically, I could care less about your teaching. In fact, it's not even really that good, but I love the worship.
I was just joking about it not being good.
The worship.
I do. I do love the worship, but you've got some good things to say every once in a while. And so it keeps
Heather,
me coming back.
I love it. I mean, again, this is what I love about you and your family is that those things, like you're just real people, we're all the same people, we're going down the same road, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You don't have to like the preaching.
You're right.
You don't have to you're on mission because you've evolved. This is the thing that I think we can all learn from is that you came as a children's pastor, and we're essentially on staff, whatever that means, at Life Church in the beginning.
For a while.
Yeah, and then a lot of times when people move out of that position, they're just done. And you just evolved. You then went into middle school ministry, and then you mentored kids from middle school all the way through high school who you still have a relationship with, and now it's like full circle, and you're back. Yeah, I mean, to me, that shows people who are like, you know what, I can just evolve with where God needs me and what He needs me to do, and so you don't have to like any of the preaching.
You don't. Well, and you don't have to if I think God has called me to be somewhere, and I do think He's called me to be here, and I do have a heart for the kids that are in downtown Huntington and can walk here, but I guess it goes back to I have a calling on my life, and I'm here at this time of my life, and I'm never done. In my opinion, I'm never done with ministry. If I'm here, it's because God can use me and certain things, and obviously He's given me the gift of teaching. I'm a teacher. Why not use those gifts for Him? And
but you do have to admit that you have filtered a lot,
Yeah.
meaning that you have been a part of a lot of broken things at Life Church.
for sure.
Things that just didn't go right. I mean, it's like gossip and
For sure.
people not happy and things, and you're still like, I don't care.
I don't.
I can listen to I can hear all this. If I'm on mission, I'm just going to be on mission, and those are things we all could learn from.
Yeah.
That's what I think is cool, because you have been in very close proximity to things that have just been a disaster.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not the common thread.
No, I'm just
Did
saying.
you see that?
No. But from the beginning,
Yes,
you have been a part
for
of
sure.
Yeah, as we're learning children's ministry and leadership and things that have just, I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, it is ugly sometimes.
It is ugly. And I think it helps that you have that mentality that, we're not going to do everything right all of the time. We think that that's another thing. We think that this is where God's leading us, so this is where we're going to go. If we don't think God's leading us somewhere, we're not going to go there. And you've been pretty steadfast in that, and I think that helps. But as the leader, you have always been okay with things failing. I think with the mentality that if it fails, that must not have been where God wanted us to put our energies.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think if we had a pastor that was like, this cannot fail, or you cannot let this ministry fail again like that, or whatever, I think that would change everything. But I think when you have that mindset that if this is where God's leading us, we're going to be successful in it. And if it's not, then that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll try something else. You know what I mean? Because He's going to change what He wants us to do. Because if we're not willing to change, we're not going to be ministering. Think about how our community has changed in the last 20 years. If we weren't willing to change, we wouldn't be ministering to our community right now.
Well, and speaking of change, I have this has been on my heart for the past couple months of the church has to continue to evolve, right? I think we always have to continue to be like, where is God? What's happening? And so God's laid on my heart lately this whole idea that moving into the future, we're going to have to figure out how to minister to the family, because the family unit, if we can fix the family unit, and I'm really surprised because I've been reading books on healthy marriages, right? And so they're talking about healthy marriages in the church. They did a study across the United States. 80% of the people in church do not consider their marriage healthy.
Really?
Yeah, and thriving.
Wow.
And so they're talking about this whole idea of you're trying to figure out how to disciple, and you're trying to disciple kids, and you're trying to do where the unit, right? The family unit itself is broke, you know, and or they said, and again, this isn't pointing fingers right or wrong, but they said at least 50% of the people come from divorced backgrounds, you know, and so they're either single parents or they're,
Like in ministry, people in ministry?
people
Or
in the church
Okay,
in
all right.
general. So now you're dealing with 30 years ago, it used to be there might be 4 or 5 divorced families in a church of 300 or 400 people. Now you got a church of 400 or 500 people that half of them are coming from, which is a different dynamic,
It is.
like on how you're going to do it. And so the evolution, like how are we going to continue to evolve as a church instead of saying, like, nope, this is what you should be doing, because there is challenges that weren't happening 10 years ago.
Right. Well, and, you know, my perspective is how do we meet the needs of the kids?
Right.
Because I know kids are kids, but kids are changing. And we have kids coming into the church with lots of baggage and lots of trauma that we didn't have to deal with 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. You know, I was talking to Sarah. I had spent some time in the youth group, and when I was heavily invested in the youth group, we had mostly church kids and a few that weren't, and I think hers has flip-flopped.
Absolutely.
And that is a completely different dynamic, not just when she's having youth group, but when you're planning and as a church when we want to meet the needs of these kids. You know, if we truly want to raise that next generation for Christ, we got a lot of work to do because these kids they have high ACE scores. They have a lot of trauma that they're dealing with, and we've got our work cut out for us as the church.
Isaac is reading a book called The Distracted Generation. And so it's about his generation and how they grew up completely distracted by cell phones, iPads, and what it's done to their brain, and actually what it's done on, because this is what God's laid on my heart. So this is what I'm going to try to figure out. So I think our first thing that we have to overcome. Like, I don't know that anybody understands healthy relationships, right? So I think that this distracted generation has never really understood. They understand connection, but they don't understand healthy relationships. And so even with their relationship with Christ, they don't understand healthy relationships. And then it turns into friends. Like, friends are more transactional and more, you know, it's not a deep, healthy relationship. And then it transitions into a marriage it's a relationship, but it's not a healthy relationship. And then it goes into how do we have healthy relationships with our kids if we don't even understand how to have a healthy relationship with our wife. So I think that is where we are today. I think people are in relationship, but I don't think they're healthy relationships. And I think generationally that's happened because we don't know how to do it anymore. Like, we don't know how to do, you know, and there's add in that not only you're distracted, there is trauma and there is other things that go with it. So what do we do? Like, you know, so I'm saying, I think as a church, we're going to have to figure that part out. We're going to have to figure out how to help create healthy relationships and what are healthy relationships and what can we do, you know, to be able to do them. Because you know, last night, so here we are in a men's group, right, of all, I consider them all farmers, hunters. I mean, so we're talking about Taylor's message, Paul and Timothy, like, how do you mentor and what does that look like? There were 3 guys. These are guys that I'm thinking wouldn't even have a phone, said, I have my mentoring relationship online. Like, I have a group of men that mentor me through Zoom, through an online community where, like, I'm like, what? Like, those things don't seem normal to me.
Me neither.
But this is actually happening where, is it healthy, not healthy? I don't know. But I think we're going to have to start thinking outside of the box on ways to continue to create healthy relationships where people can figure out how to be in relationship with each other. And how are we going to reach people that do have trauma? And how are we going to reach people that do come from a background that's not normal?
Yeah.
You know, and what does that look like? And so for you who deal with it every day, I'm assuming you still do. I guess I don't even know what you do for a living anymore.
I'm still a special educator
Okay.
in middle school.
Yeah.
I love it. I love what I do.
Which is still crazy.
It is. In middle
I don't even
school,
mean that bad, but I hear people
those
that are in
kids
special
wild.
education and it's like,
Yeah.
or when I went, did I tell you the story when I went to Flint Springs?
No.
Is that where I went? Yeah. So I go to Flint Springs and they,
Or Lincoln?
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
I thought you went to Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, Like they go to the room where
Yeah,
I don't know what they call it, like the kids that are
like a sensory room or the ED room.
either way.
or-
So they're like, okay, you need to go from here to there. Like they told this kid, and he just goes out in the hallway and sits down. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you gonna go pick him up? No, you can't. You can't pick him up. You just got to encourage him. Just encourage him to get up. And I'm like, so we go around the pods.
Yeah.
You know, and we end up back there, and they're like, he's still sitting there. People are still encouraging him to get up, and I'm like, I have no idea how teachers do it, let alone teachers who are dealing with it. I don't even mean this bad. I hope that doesn't sound like
No.
I'm
No, I
picking
don't
on
take
him.
it
But
that way.
how do you work through that? Because you have to have the patience of a saint to be able to.
Yeah. Well, I did learn not to pray for patience. I did that a long time ago. That's not happening again. Because
Right.
if you pray for it, God's going to test you in that.
Yeah.
But I'm on mission in my job. Because if I didn't look at it as being on mission, I probably wouldn't stay. And I'm not saying I love what I do. I love what I do. I love being at Riverview. I've got a great caseload of kids this year. And things are good. But if I didn't have a mission mindset, I know that I would be so discouraged that there would be no reason to stay, because we deal with lots of behaviors. The way we deal with behaviors is changing. The way we deal with parents is changing. We don't have as much parent support as we used to have. It's just a different beast than
Yeah.
it used to be, and it is very frustrating at times.
Right.
But I guess I just keep in mind that I'm there for a reason, and I just want to love on kids. And I know I can't talk about God, but I want to share. I want to love on them like Jesus would love on them.
Yeah, but you're sharing the gospel
Oh,
by
I am.
loving them.
I am, yeah.
Without even
And
saying a word.
just letting them know even that they have value and they have purpose.
Right.
Like, again, without saying, I don't have to say one biblical word, but there's a lot of kids that have no hope and are hopeless, and you'd be surprised. You know, you think we're in Huntington, it's a small community, we're a bunch of farmers, everybody's great, and that's just not the case. We've got schools full of hurting kids, and so, yeah, I just think it goes back to that mission mindset, because if I were in the mission field in Guatemala, I'd have difficult things that I,
Yeah.
have to encounter, and I have difficult things I have to encounter here in town as well.
Right. Which I think is a big piece of you keep coming back to the idea that, I mean, if you go into it with a missional mindset, right? Because when you go overseas or when you go anywhere and you're on mission, you tend to put up with things that you would never put up with before.
Right.
Right? Like you
Right.
just do. It's interruptions, it's difficult work, it's difficult people. Why? Because you're on mission.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the thing that we had to continue to teach is that you don't have to go anywhere to be on mission. I mean, you'll be able to work through things if you would look at your everyday as
Yeah.
a mission field.
Yeah, and my mom used to tell me, she's like, I'm going to pray that you get to be a missionary and go on a missions trip. And this is before I had ever gone on any trips.
Yeah.
And I used to get so frustrated. I'm like, Mom, I'm on mission. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on mission every day in the schools, loving on kids that, I'm a special educator, so I'm already dealing with the underdog.
Yeah.
And, encouraging kids that just need a little extra encouragement. And so, yeah, our teachers, especially our teachers that go to church and that are believers, we need to be praying for them and lifting them up in prayer, because it's hard. It's hard. Think about all the things schools are doing now that they never used to have to do.
Oh.
It used to be we educated kids, right? Go back to Little House on the Prairie. Miss Beadle, all she had to do was teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Now we're feeding kids. We're teaching them academics. We're teaching them not to do drugs and not to drink. We're teaching them personal hygiene. We're teaching them how to treat other people. Like, the list just keeps going on and on and on. We can't do it all.
Right.
We can't do it all.
Right.
And plates are going to fall. And so I just think lifting up our educators in prayer, not just saying that, like, we need to pray for our teachers. Like,
No.
we truly need to pray for our teachers.
Well, no, I
They're
think
in the
it's a-
trenches,
I think it's a broken system.
for sure.
And that's why, I mean, that's my fear. My fear is that it's so far down the road that, I mean, I don't know how to fix the educational system.
Yeah.
But what I want to hear from you, because we're close to the end already.
Okay.
So can you give us a thought of, so how can the church respond in ways to be helpful, whether it's in the school system, alongside of the school system, or with kids in general? Like, you've seen both sides of it. What is the church's response because we can't fix a state-educated school. I mean, the school systems
Right.
are going to be the school systems, and we can come alongside and help, but that's a whole beast
That is. I think, like you said, coming alongside and helping. We've got a lot of good things going on in Huntington County Schools. We really do. We've got a lot of great teachers doing a lot of good things. And I think just as a community coming around and supporting our teachers and trusting their expertise, that, you know, we are highly educated and we're the ones that are hired to do the job. So trust us to do the job we're doing. You know, but as the church, I always think back to all the baby dedications, and when you ask church, are you going to help us raise these kids in Christ? And we all say yes, but do you really mean it? So raising those kids in Christ, you know, means volunteering. We say it all the time, but helping in children's ministry, helping in youth ministry, you know, maybe if you can't do that, to support them financially, or there's all kinds of ministries that you can get involved in to help support our kids. But if we really mean it, that we're going to stand alongside these parents and help them raise their kids, then we have to put our money where our mouth is.
Right.
And get involved and get your hands dirty. If there's places to volunteer at school, volunteer at school. And, you know, if you're a parent of a school-aged kid, you know, start thinking about how can I help my kid, my child academically at home? How can I help my child behaviorally at home? And I know no kids are perfect, but just building that team. We used to have a teacher that worked at Riverview that said, you know, education is like a three-legged stool, and the school is one of the legs, the parent is one of the legs, and the kid is one of the legs. And if one of us is not pulling our weight, then the stool is always going to be off balance. And I love that analogy. So I just think, you know, if you have school-aged kids, you know, helping keep your child accountable at home as well will go a long way at the school.
Yeah. And I think that I think even just the sheer fact, listening to Lexi or listening to the sheer fact of just praying for and encouraging.
Oh my gosh.
Because
for sure.
I assume listening to them talk is that there are a lot of days that are discouraging.
There are. And prayer goes a long way. I've learned a lot. You know, my niece has been sick for a couple of years, and it seems like such a cheap thing to say, like, I'm going to be praying for you, but it's everything. When you pray for other people and you stand in the gap for them, and, you know, like Moses' friends held up his arms when they were in the battle, you really are holding up the educators and, you know, helping them get through those difficult days. And because not only do you have to have patience, but you have to watch what you do. You have to watch what you say. You have to watch what you email. Like you are constantly, you know what I mean? Constantly. But yeah, that prayer and encouraging words, those are everything.
Yeah. Jennifer, any other? Sorry, I
do.
kind of just hijacked.
No,
over.
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
So you've always been a believer in God.
Yep.
So I want to kind of show people that even though you are a believer in God, there's been times that have been hard or things challenging. So tell us an experience that you had, something that you had to truly lean on God to get through. That without Him, it would not have, because it's not a cakewalk. Just knowing Jesus your whole life.
Not.
I mean, you still have those ups and the downs.
Yeah.
So.
You know, it's hard to just pick one. There's lots of ups and downs in life, you know, and there's times, you guys have both raised kids. There's sometimes in raising kids where you're just in a valley and, you know, your heart longs for them to be at a certain place in life and they're not. And those are probably some of the biggest times that I've had to lean on God and just pray that He will continue to turn their hearts toward Him. And then there's been times, you know, there's the last couple of years my family has had a couple people that have dealt with life or death situations. And, you know, in begging God for healing and restoration, and you see very little of that, it's hard. And it's, you know, like, why are you not coming through? Like I do ministry, I do this, I do that. But like my sister-in-law says, why not? You know, there's nothing in the Bible and nothing that God has ever said that we are not going to walk through those valleys. And sometimes we think that we are entitled to not have to walk through a valley. But I walk through those valleys, but if you can just stand back and look back a little bit and you see God's fingerprints here and there, He hasn't left us alone.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And then you can look back and say, yeah, I've walked through a valley, but God has been with me through every step of it. I may not have seen Him in it, but He's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings tears to my eyes.
does.
It is true.
It
It
is.
is so true. And you can, see God through everything that you do. You
can.
don't waver.
Yeah.
You don't waver, knowing that God's going to see you through that next valley that you go
Yeah.
through.
And he won't. He promises, I will never leave you or forsake you.
Right.
And the enemy wants to make us
Right.
think that he's not there. He's not there for you. He does not love you. He does not care about this person, or he does not want to heal that person, or you're not good enough. And those are lies.
Right?
Those are lies. And he's there, and I just focus on those little times when he's there, those little times when he's worked something out. My nephew was at Riley almost 2 years ago on death's door. They were talking about organ donation, and he is a lively and vibrant, cute as a button little guy now. God saved his life. His mom got breast cancer, and that was a valley, and she's cancer-free now. Bree Lynn got sick, and she is still very sick, but she spoke.
Yeah.
And so there's, God's fingerprints are in everything,
Yeah.
and you have to focus on those. You can't focus on the darkness and the valleys, because that's where Satan wants your mind.
Yeah. Good encouragement
Yes.
to leave on.
Well, and again, I mean, I think that is, the thing that I said it from the beginning, I'll just reiterate it again. I mean, we can all learn, if we stay missional, you can make it through
Yeah.
a lot.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean, if you can keep your eyes focused, the white noise, the outside things, the distractions of life, the things that happen, if we stay mission focused like you guys have, then, we can be used by God, whether it's on the top, whether it's on the bottom,
Right.
whether the church is going well, the church isn't going well.
Right.
Like you can still be a part of making a difference
Absolutely.
in the place that you are. So when this comes out, make sure, because this will come out on Facebook, so make sure that you like, share, comment. That way, if you don't know Mrs. Hiple, she is I think she's usually first service,
I'm first
stage
service.
right, back about. They sit in the same seats all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time.
If
They're
I don't
back
sit in the
about-
same seat, the sermon's not as good.
Agreed.
I'm like, if I walk in and somebody's in my seat, I'm like, oh, man, what's going to happen? Yeah. First service in the service, and then second service, I'm in children's ministry somewhere.
Yeah, so make sure that
So.
you come up and say hi,
Yeah.
and introduce yourself and get to know you. And again, we just want to say thank you. Thank you from the beginning. Thank you for still being a part of. And again, we still look forward to all of the future things
Absolutely.
that God, wants to do.
Absolutely.
So, again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.